So there were 4 engineers that were going to a conference: a mechanical engineer, a chemical engineer, an electrical engineer, and a computer engineer. They're driving down the road in the car, and the car breaks down. So the mechanical engineer says, obviously, I feel like we've blown a rod. And the chemical engineer says, well, but it was sputtering, so it must not be getting the gas that it needs, right? And the electrical engineer says, well, I think it's because it's something with the wiring. There's a problem there. And they turned to the computer engineer and said, what do you think it is? And he said, I think we should get out and then get back in. You know, how often do you have that dazed look, either on your phone or your computer? It's not a phone anymore. I don't know why we call it a phone. Or your computer, and you just get that kind of odd look in your face. It's like, what's happened? I have no idea. Things are turning, nothing's working, touching things, and you just like turn it off and then go forget it and then come back as if nothing ever happened and pray for the best, right? Absolutely. Well, Wayne Dyer would say that in our lives, for you and for me, that often we can get out of our lives to then go back into our lives and as a silent witness or observer be able to see it in an entirely different way. When I first started here 15 years ago, nobody stopped breathing on that. I didn't. We keep going. Okay. There was a guy here that had been a diabetic most of his life, and his mother called me because he was in ICU, and I went up to talk to them, and he was in deep intensive care, and all the nurses were nodding their head, and I, as a minister, know what that means. And he had tubes all over, and she was obviously just very upset. And just being in his energy field, it became very clear to me that he was going through this phase of he was getting out of his life with looking at would he get back in. You know, that kind of energy, right? And I said to him, even though he couldn't talk, are you ready? Would you be willing to really get into your life now? And I was just kind of following the guidance, like, you've been taking life for granted. And you've been resisting who you are in your sacred service. I mean, you are currently a diabetic and you're resisting and you're not taking your medication. And what if you had another chance? And he just starts crying very deeply and lifts up. And in a week, he was out of the hospital and extended a life and lived a life and stopped making excuses or resisting. You know, there's something to be said when we take it upon ourselves and we really feel it's our job to compete with our Creator. Yeah, we compete with our Creator. We're having things happen, unfold, or not, and we're competing with our Creator. No, this is the better way. Oh, no, have it this way. No, brand it this way. No, have this occur this way. And when we do that, we're not getting out of our lives so we can get back in it to see often what can unfold for us. Does this connect with you? Do you have this kind of energy about that? Ben Vereen, is a very noted he's on Broadway all the time. And if you saw him, you'd know immediately, oh, yes, that's him. He was one of the lead actors in Roots. Very popular, immensely talented guy. And he said that when he was going off to college, his dad said, son, come back. I need to tell you something, and don't ever forget it. And his dad looked at him and he said, whatever you do, do the hokey pokey. Do the hokey pokey and turn yourself around, son. You know, get out of your life to get back in your life and put your whole self in. Put your whole self in. Turn yourself around and do that. And he, you know, kind of looked at his dad like, okay, whatever. You know, that was a kid's nursery rhyme, whatever. But his life would go on, and his daughter was tragically killed in a car accident. And he went into the throes of being an addict, strongly doing cocaine. And as he was coming out of rehab, He was struck by a car, had a full-blown stroke. It looked like the end of his life. He kept hearing his dad. Dad, Okie dokie. Turn yourself around. Wow, that's what it's all about. And the doctors are all around him saying, he's not going to be able to do his career. He won't be able to sing again. He won't be able to dance again. He won't be able to stand in front of people again. And he just kept saying, I put my whole self in. And instantaneously, he went back to work. Powerful story. Very powerful story. You know, coming out of our lives so we can come back into our lives. I see how so many of us resonate together. There's so many gifted people that come here to First Unity Spiritual Campus. And you know, in 3 weeks it will be Easter, as shocking as that is. And so this is a two-part lesson today. It's this week, and then I'm going to be talking in depth about the delivery of our message next week. So that being said, I did that because people keep telling me have a good time out of town, and I went, I don't know where I'm going. I'm going to be here. Anyway, back on track. I'm around a lot of extremely gifted people, and yet often we compete with God with how those gifts and talents are going to be used. Do you relate to that? We have it in our idea of what it's supposed to look like, what it's supposed to be witnessed. And when I think about so many years how, for me, I would do something, I would feel the gifts and talents that God had for me. My God was great, but then I would go and sabotage all of that. And then I'd wind up in jail and call Dad. You know, and then I'd go over to Unity again and, you know, be with the angels and everybody and and do namaste, and I would, you know, be kind of getting the sense of things. Then I'd be in jail again. And there was a defining moment about putting my whole self in. There was a defining moment about coming out of that life that I knew and the willingness to be able to step into it in a different way because that way wasn't working. You know, and that's the whole point of the magic of being able to look at life from a place of observation and be able to say, I keep doing what I keep doing, so I keep getting what I keep getting, and if I keep doing that, then that's the way it's going to be. It's time to turn myself around. Yes? Very strong kind of essence of that. We talked about Edison last week, and what a brilliant man. And someone asked him, if you had an hour to solve anything in the world, how would you use it? He said, well, I would take 55 minutes and sit and ponder what is the right question to ask. Because once I get the right question, it'll take me 5 minutes for the problem to be solved. Powerful statement. I've mentioned this before. Sometimes you just hear the right words at the right time. And I really love the work of Noah St. John, the power of affirmations. Have you heard of him? Bless you. Yes. So the power of affirmations. And he said that, you know, often in New Thought, we're so quick, do your affirmations, do your affirmations, do your affirmations. And they're effective and they work. But often when you're doing your affirmations, you may have noticed that you have a voice or several voices in your head denying that affirmation. The ones that are willing to admit it are nodding their heads. The others are just doing, not giving in today. Not my day, not going to give in. But I know this is happening because I've asked a few people and it happens, and it's happened to me. You know, you're standing in front of the mirror and you're affirming certain things. I am wealthy, you know, and your mind goes, hey, don't you remember that? You know, still owe that. You got to take care of that. And what about those things? I am wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, you know. And so what he said is, instead of doing an affirmation, even though you do many and even though they do work, I mean, I know that many affirmations have come true over time. Right? But that being said, he said, ask yourself the question. If you make the statement, I'm wealthy, for example, and your mind goes, well, don't forget that, and you still owe your mother, you know, and you got college things and that. If you ask yourself, what does it take in my life for me to feel wealthy? The universe starts answering for you. Can you be with that? It starts answering it for you. And you know, in Unity Wealth, we're not just talking about your IRAs and your CDs and all that's nice, but we're talking about knowing who you are. The greatest wealth on earth is knowing who you are. So, in that space with that, there was a story of a little girl that she was going to dinner with her friends, and the hostess, the mom of that little girl, says, "We're having buttered broccoli. Do you like it?" And she says, "Yes, ma'am, I love it. I absolutely love it." So they sit down at dinner, and she gives her buttered broccoli along with the other things, and the little girl didn't touch it. And she said, "I don't understand. I asked you if you like buttered broccoli, and you said you love it." She says, "Yes, ma'am, I do love it, but I just don't eat it." And I don't know about you, but I mean, I love the potentiality of what my life can be. And I know that many of you do as well. You have this voice, you have this energy, you have this pull, this gravitation towards what is possible in your life, and you love the thought of it. You just don't want to eat things that need to occur in order for that to transpire, in order for that to happen, in order for you to witness it, in order for you to experience it of what is possible. But your God is so great, and my God is so great, that once we would stop competing with our Creator and let go of the rope, so that tug of warness, it's not a word, but it is today. In South Carolina, I know it's a word somewhere, that you allow that to unfold. So you feel that, you see. You experience that, you see. Often people forget that there was that also defining moment that happened with Jesus, a person who felt destined to come with a new set of laws, to bring a new set of laws to show people that you are a direct source to spirit. And if you get that natural connection of what that is, that you have that automatic connection, you don't have to go through anybody, you don't have to fill out any forms, you just go and you bring it in, and that's what he wanted to prove. Through that, your life could be abundant because you are connected to the greatest infinite wellspring of life, and it's everywhere around you. And that's what he knew that he was to teach. He went to the mystery schools. I mean, they took him from one mystery school to another, which hopefully we'll get those back in our society again. I feel like we are a mystery school here, but I'm going to stay on topic. That's another time. That being said, even him in the moment, he was at the wedding at Cana, and they had a lot of guests, a lot of unexpected guests came for the wedding. Do you remember what happened? They ran out of wine. People like me were probably there when I used to drink. They ran out of wine. They ran out of wine. They didn't have enough. And so his mother, doing what a mother does, said, "Son, take care of it. I know you have gifts. I know you have talents. Fix it." And what did he say? "It's not my time. My hour hasn't come." How often do you say that? That window, that moment, you're right there at it. You've been waiting on it. You can get God bumps. You feel it. And you go, "Oh no, not yet. Oh no, no, my time hasn't come. My hour hasn't come." Wow. What would happen if you put your whole self in? Because you see, until we do this, we project on organizations, on the people we live with, on the friends we have or didn't have. We project onto them that they're not ready for us. You see, it's not a them out there, it's a us in here. Yeah, right? And we're projecting onto others and to other places. "Oh, I told them I'd volunteer, but nobody called. I told them I'd do," it's not about a waiting game, you see. It's here I am. Here I am. I'm here. I'm here to be of sacred service, just as I am. Feel that presence. There was a speaker in South Carolina speaking to a group of college kids. And she opened her talk by saying, "I was born to a deaf woman. And I didn't know who my father was. And I still don't. And my first job was working in a cotton field. And she said, if you look at your life and you don't like what you see in your life, you can make it matter by changing what matters to you. And then she would say, nothing has to remain the way that it is if it's not the way you want it to be. It isn't luck, it's the name of a horse. It isn't circumstances, and it isn't being born a certain way that causes a person's future to become what it is. It becomes because a person comes out of their life to step into their life to say, this is it. This is how I'm serving. This is how my sacred service shows up. This is what I'm working with, and this is what I'm rolling with. That's it. And then she went on to say, my name is A.Z. Morton Taylor, and I am the treasurer of the United States. She was and is the only African American that has ever been given that position, and if you look on some of your currency, she has actually signed it. That's how great God is. That's how great the universe is for what we can receive and what we can have and what we can witness. Jonathan and I are working on a TV show for the Intentional Spirit on the New Thought channel and YouTube about a young girl. And I feel so strongly about it, I'll probably show it and invite people to come here if you would be interested. And I haven't even told you, and you're already nodding. I just love you. You're so precious. Anyway, she was born a meth baby. And she was born and tested positive, and she has no joints. There's no shoulders, no elbows, no knees, no ankles, no bones in her hands and in her feet. As things are now, they have done all that they can do. She's in a wheelchair all the time. She's just turned 18. Her name is Sierra. You're going to love her. Just the encounter with her literally changed the foundation of my life and my beliefs, okay? And I just love being in her energy field. She is doing sacred service because she's not competing with the Creator. She said when she was 3 years old, she told her Nana, I don't say can't. Can't is not my word. Can't's not my word. There's her Nana over there. So, as the story goes, when she was in junior high school, she was still living with her mom. And the kids put food in her hair. They held the wheelchair up and knocked her down flights of stairs. They laughed at her. They made fun of her. And she said, I really thought about taking my life. But I walked out of my life so I could walk back in it. And I said, okay, this is how I'm created. And I am a gift of love. And I'm going to give it to everybody that I see. And I said, you go, girlfriend. You paint it red. You paint it red. But here's the thing. She doesn't want anyone to feel sorry for her. Oh, no. She wants to talk about what her next difference is going to look like. She's not a graduate. Perfect pitch. Tops in her coral group. That's what it's about, is that space. It's that Ben Vereen whose dad said, put your whole self in. It's the moment of putting your whole self in. With Jesus, my time has come. What am I thinking? Yeah, let's go. Let's do it. This is my first modern day miracle, he says. Here we go. What is yours? That moment, that readiness, that space to get back into your life. What will that look like for you? Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you.